So, how you doing, folks? In this video, we're going to be taking a look at running a mod chip, in this case the Modbo 5, in 2025. There's been a lot of kind of advances in the PlayStation 2 modding scene, especially with things like FreeMcBoot and kind of soft mods. So I think kind of there's information out there about kind of how to run your mod chips with modern kind of methods, but it's kind of a bit all over the place. It's not all in one place as such. The inspiration for this video basically came because I wanted to be able to boot from my hard drive. Mod chip owners will know that with the mod chip, you're booting from a USB stick. And then with OPL on the USB stick, you can access your media off your hard drive, your internal hard drive. But I was kind of set myself the goal of, well, what if I wasn't to use a USB stick or a memory card, and I wanted to boot off the hard drive? Well, to outline it simply, some of the software modding, like booting FreeMcBoot, isn't really an option when you have a mod chip because they conflict, basically. The mod chip wants to handle the boot and FreeMcBoot wants to handle the boot, hence the names, I guess. And they have a conflict, basically. So FreeMcBoot or free hard drive boot aren't really going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up my PS2. I'll hold triangle and circle to bring up the matrix menu. So I'm just holding triangle and circle now, and we're into the menu. So not all matrix chips are made equally. So my Modbo 5 is a recreation, probably a mass-produced one from somewhere in China. But most chips out there will have this firmware. You'll see it at the top there. It says Matrix version 3.1M USB Advanced Edition. USB ADV edition. So the USB ADV is an application. It's a .elf that runs on your USB stick. So we'll have a quick look at the traditional way. So mass will be pointing to your USB stick. So I'm going to hit start, and then I'm going to hit reset. So booting off mass. This is just the mod chip doing its thing. So there you go, loading into boot_menu version 1.00. So this is actually what we're seeing here. This menu system is USB advanced.elf. That's the file we're kind of currently looking at. Again, I have ulaunch elf and I have wlaunch elf. This is your OSD menu, or it'll boot auto. And then we have OPL. So anyone who's used a mod chip would be familiar enough with these four icons. Okay, I've changed the graphics around and pointed towards different programs, but it's essentially the exact same menu anyone else running the mod chip will have. So we're going to reset the console again. And again, I'm holding triangle and circle, and we're going to go through the different modes. Next is Dev1. Dev1 is basically your memory card. So memory card slot 1, it would look in a directory there for any program, any ELF file, so OPL, any other game launcher or application. So long as you named it boot.elf, it'd find it. Something similar with dev2, it would actually look on a partition called __boot, and then it'll look for boot.elf. This has some drawbacks because it'll technically work with both 28-bit and 48-bit hard drives. So being like, that's why you're kind of limited on size with the old 28-bit hard drives, whereas 48-bit you can address more space, you can increase the amount of storage. But again, it has some trouble with modern setups. DVD-V, again, you're booting from your DVD drive. Again, without copy protection, obviously. And then we have auto. So auto is interesting because it'll first try and boot the PlayStation firmware. And this is where things get kind of interesting. So one of the reasons, and I'll circle back to why you can't use FreeMac Boot, is FreeMac Boot alters stuff in memory as it's booting. So that means that the Matrix Infinity chip, the Modbus 5, and FreeMac Boot are both trying to address the same part of memory. So you're going to get the system's going to hang. So with that in mind, I wanted to boot from my hard drive, and I was looking around the internet, and I came across the PSBBN project by CosmicScale. And basically, if we go over here, PSBBN Definitive English Patch. So I gave this a go after failing to get FreeMac Boot to work. And as it turns out, this was actually booting and not conflicting with my hard drive. Unfortunately, it's very slow. PSBBN is a cool bit of software. I think in the future probably will be your one-stop shop for launching homebrew on your PlayStation 2 or soft modding your PlayStation 2. But right now, it's just too slow compared to booting even off USB stick and then booting games off the hard drive via OPL. It's just way too slow. But it got me thinking, and it was obviously using its own bootloader. So I started looking into it. So again, when we're set on auto, we're booting into the PlayStation's regular bootloader. That basic bootloader will allow for updates. So we're kind of taking advantage of that fact. I'm kind of repeating myself a little there. It'll make sense in a minute. If we go back over to my screen here, you'll see the PlayStation 2 Basic Boot Loader. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that CosmicScale for the PlayStation Broadband Network OS was using this bootloader or something very, very similar. So the bootloader itself is made by kind of israpps or israpps. I can't pronounce his handle here, but he's a bit of a legend in the homebrew scene, and he's basically made this really lightweight bootloader. And he's also made a tool called KELF. So KELF allows us to set up the bootloader and point towards a package, i.e. like OPL, Open PlayStation Launcher, or that, and kind of boot from that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back over to my screen here, and we've set it to auto, so we should be picking up these hooks now for the update, which will bring us in through the PlayStation Basic Boot Loader, PSBBL. So you're seeing the normal Sony screen. Give it a second, you'll notice the moment it starts. There you go. It's heading in now, it's booting off the hard drive. So this is OPL launcher booting directly off my hard drive. So that's really cool. These days we tend to use HDL batch installer for both kind of regular OPL style launching from the hard drive, but also the PlayStation Broadband Network software guys are also using this. So you can prepare a hard drive, install your games using HDL batch installer. You can kind of look through it there and download it and give it a go. There's plenty of videos online. It's not actually that hard to get up and going. So once your hard drive is set up using HD batch installer, you can format it, put all your games on, get it ready on that, and then when you're ready, get your USB stick. And what you're going to do is you're going to get a copy of the PlayStation 2 Basic Boot Loader, put it in a directory on your USB stick, somewhere where you're going to find it easy, and shorten the names of the directories to make things a lot easier on yourself. You're also going to need a copy of KELFBinder. KELFBinder is kind of worth getting because it allows you to do a lot of things using the PS2 BBL and kind of implement it the way you want through KELFBinder. And then you're also going to need, well, that's the basic bootloader. You're also going to need the most recent copy of Open PS2 Loader, OPL, and put those all on a USB stick. So with that said, I'm going to go back over here to my screen. I have a tools section. So I have my basic W launch elf. So if I go in here, this is roughly kind of what you're going to be doing. I'm not going to show you the PC side of it because if you've gotten as far as installing a Modchip, I don't think you're going to need my help with that. Okay, so if we go over to my mass storage, and I think I placed everything in tools. So here I have a folder I created in tools called BBL, and I have all my apps in here. The PS2 Basic Boot Loader, I think I copied that out, but it was in this folder, and KELFBinder. So if I launch KELFBinder, I'm not going to reinstall this because bad things can happen. PS2 hard drive or disk topology and kind of layout is a bit weird. So we'll probably just reset out of this, but I just want to show you kind of what's possible. So here, this is KELFBinder.elf, and so you can manage system updates, manage HDD updates. So they're called updates, but what you're basically doing is using the update exploit, so that you can hook on with the basic bootloader through there. So you'd go into there, and it'll give you an option to install. I'm not going to do it now because I have the system up and running the way I want, and little things that you think might matter actually can trip you up, and you end up having to format your drive and go through it all again. It's not that big of a deal. I think about an hour, and you should be able to or less, and you should be able to set everything up. Most of that time is going to be spent watching progress bars. So we're going to exit out. One other thing I wanted to actually show you, and again, this is something that I think you should take your time with, because this did cause me problems in the past. But it's basically, how do you configure your bootloader? So if I go in here, I'm going to go to Mass and Tools. So in Tools, you see I have a config.ini. I actually edited this config. Wait, I just see, yeah, I'll open it. And I'll basically show you what's going on. So you'll notice a common pattern here. So so we have PlayStation 2 Basic Boot Loader config file. Skip to a PS2 logo is set to 0, no. Key read wait time. By default, that's set to 4,000 milliseconds. That's 4 seconds. I've it set to 1,000 milliseconds, 1 second. OSD history underscored read equals 1, which is yes. Tray eject equals 1 is yes. They're not that important. But here's where you could change this file on your computer. Now, again, the only change I made was key read wait time to 1,000 milliseconds. But mass storage, now you're getting an idea of where the apps are stored. So if we're on the USB stick, we can go to the apps directory and put in open PlayStation 2 Loader.elf in there, and it'll load that automatically. If we're on the hard drive, it's going to go to underscore common, and then into PFS, and then apps, and load our open PS2 Loader.elf. But so you can see the same's happening all the way down the line. So after the autos, you can kind of see, well, R1, what happens when you hold R1 during the bootloader screen, what happens when you hold select, start, down, up, cross, triangle, square, all that kind of stuff. Now, these don't really conflict with your Modbo 5 kind of shortcuts that do a similar thing, because basically these binds don't kick in. You don't get it to hook onto these until you actually see the open or the PS2 Basic Boot Loader screen pop up. And again, I've given myself 1 second, but by default you have 4 seconds. So loads of time if you do want to change these up. Again, you can edit these files. So if you didn't want or want to be ulaunch.elf, you could change that to something else. And same with select, start, down, up, all the rest of it. There's a good example of how to configure this on the GitHub, but I just said I'd show you just in case. So we're going to exit without saving. Another thing, so I basically edited mine on PC when I was preparing everything, and I copied that file. So it's OR1 copy with circle, and I'll just show you while we're here exactly where you place that. So it's in system config. It'll be in boot. No, it won't. It'll be in PS2 Basic Boot Loader folder under system config. So you can delete that and paste your own one that's slightly edited. But again, don't do too much copying and pasting in ulaunch elf. It's fine with little files and even small elf files, but larger game files and that, the way the PS2 hard drive or file system works is games are actually have their own designated partitions. So you can run into problems, let's say, and end up undoing all your hard work if you go messing big time with directories. But copying simple files, configs, ini's around the place should be okay. So that's, I don't want to get too much into the weeds with that and kind of overload things. So I guess what I'll do is I'm going to go to mass and we're going to use the power off elf here. Yeah, I was playing a game off my USB stick, Capcom versus SNK. So we'll just load that. It should load fairly quick. Again, these colored screens you're seeing, back in the day there would have been a blanking signal ahead of those. So you wouldn't have actually seen them on screen. It just would have gone black, your screen.
Are made to be broken.
Okay, so here we are. I'm just going to jump in, get my ass kicked because it's ages since I played this game.
This is the first dream event. Great. I knew that groove was in the Millionaire Friday 2001. It's about to begin. Hardcore. Keep rocking, baby. Next.
I'm really not that great at this game.
This battle is about to explode. Fight!
That was meant to be a fireball. Okay, so my kick made it through his guard. Oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna reset the console. So yeah, I mean, that's a good way to kind of get around some of the limitations of using, well, they're not really limitations, but some of the shortcomings of the Modbo 5. Now, I am aware that there are other versions of the Modbo chip out there with different firmware. And indeed, some people with genuine Matrix Infinity chips will have no problem booting using the Dev2 option. But with a lot of these kind of recreated ones, they didn't really go to town on kind of recreating the entire chip. So the functionality of Dev2 is kind of hit or miss if you have one of these cheaper knockoff Modbo 5 chips. And basically that means every chip on eBay, every chip on Amazon, every chip you can get online, basically. In order to get a decent one, you'd have to get like, find someone who's like an avid collector of PlayStation 2 mod chips, or, you know, again, maybe get your hands on the actual files and get your own boards made that'd be proper and chips programmed. That's probably, you know, the easiest way to do it, the cheapest way to do it in 2025. But here we have using the PlayStation Basic Boot Loader, we have an easy way around it. So this is all thanks to people who are way smarter than me that make all of this possible. They work across different projects. So if it sounds like that I was kind of saying that the PlayStation broadband network software isn't good, it isn't good right now compared to other stuff, but it's going to be very good in the near future. And the work those guys are doing is just legendary. So I'm not knocking that at all. I'm just saying for people with mod chips who are used to OPL and kind of fast load times, or relatively fast load times, this is a great option. So if you found this video helpful at all, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll chat to you all again.